Madam Speaker.
Honourable Karen Shaw.
I present a legislative statement on the Oranga Tamariki Responding to Serious Youth Offending Amendment Bill.
That legislative statement is published under the authority of the House and can be found on the Parliament website. Honourable Karen Shaw.
I move that the Oranga Tamariki Responding to Serious Youth Offending Amendment Bill now be read for a first time, and I nominate the Social Services and Community Committee to consider the bill. In recent years, Madam Speaker, we have seen an unacceptable spike in youth offending. For a small group of young people, our current responses are not working. There is a clear gap in the youth justice system, and the system does not have the tools to respond adequately. For this small group, we need to do more, and this bill closes that gap. This bill makes fundamental changes to offer a faster, stronger, and more targeted response to young people who repeatedly commit the most serious offences. It is my view that this might be our last chance to try and prevent these young people from entering the adult jurisdiction and becoming persistent adult offenders. I want to do everything we can to break that cycle of offending, Madam Speaker. The bill introduces a young serious offender declaration and a military-style academy order. These changes are going to drive a more immediate, intense and long-lasting intervention. I wanted to start by sharing the experience from the Military Academy pilot, which lays the foundations for this legislation. This year, we had 11 young people begin the 12-month military-style academy pilot, with one young person deciding not to take up the opportunity. Each one of them was showing persistent and serious offending behaviours and was in a cycle of going through the youth courts, spending time in youth justice facilities, and then re-offending and ending up back in youth justice facilities. They were causing harm to our communities and everyday New Zealanders who became victims to their offences. The pilot was the beginning of an acknowledgement that I wanted to do more and do better to respond to our most serious young offenders. Oranga Tamariki has taken a new approach to youth justice that is tougher on crime but also puts the needs of the young people at the very heart of this program. For 3 months, the young people were in Te Aorere, where they learnt new life skills, took part in training, followed a routine, learned teamwork and looked for a better future. Several of the boys left the residence with jobs already lined up. Each one has a mentor who is working with them for 30 hours face-to-face every week, and there is intensive tailored support for each young person while they reintegrate into the community and put the new skills they've learnt to use. I've seen firsthand the success of the residential stage of the military-style academy pilot. These young people engaged in 3 months of the program without incident and without any safety concerns. To me, this is phenomenal. The clinical team observed improvements in their behaviour, and some of them have made progress towards building healthier relationships with their whānau. They've been encouraged to set goals for themselves and work towards these. But this hard work is only just beginning, and I want to ensure every one of these young people is given the chance to be the best that they can be. That is why today I'm proud to introduce legislation that builds on the success of the pilot and will be a key to achieving the government's target of reducing child and youth offending. The bill creates a serious youth offender declaration, which will unlock stronger powers for both the Youth Court and New Zealand Police. A young person will be eligible for a youth serious offender declaration if they are 14 to 17-year-old at the time of offending, have committed at least 2 serious offences, and are likely to go on offending, committing crimes with a sentence of 10 years or more. This is targeted exclusively at young people who have had previous interventions that were unsuccessful. Before a young person can be declared a YSO, police will first have to inform a family group conference that they are likely to meet the criteria for a YSO. The FGC will then have an important opportunity to consider the best response to that young person's offending and make recommendations to the Youth Court. The YSO declaration will be made at a judge's discretion. And in making any YSO declaration, the judge will consider a range of factors, including the young person's history, their social circumstances, and the views of the victim. Once a YSO declaration is made, it will last 2 years, allowing experts to invest in and get alongside these young people over a longer period of time. After a declaration is made, the Youth Court will have a range of new powers available to it, including the ability to make a military-style academy order, longer Youth Court orders, and increase the use of electronic monitoring. Crucially, for every young person declared to be a YSO, it will also trigger a far more intense operational response. Oranga Tamariki will offer wraparound support, including intensive case management and more support from social workers. They will increase work with the young person's family, offer targeted rehabilitation, and focus every effort on their transition to ensure that every young person is entering a positive environment and given the opportunity to turn their lives around. The bill also provides for new police powers to ensure that when a young person is reoffending, we can respond far quicker before that offending escalates. The bill also creates a military-style academy order, where young people will be based in a youth justice residence between 3 to 12 months. During that time, they will take part in a bespoke curriculum with daily activities to support their learning, their health and their well-being. It will include military-style activities, and the young people will be part of a group where they progress together throughout the duration of the program. This is about having consequences for the actions, but rehabilitation at the other end. The military-style academy order will now be the most restrictive youth court sentence available. However, it is underpinned by an intensive case management for each young person. Following the residential component, the young person will be put onto a supervision order, which focuses on their transition back to the community. Family and whānau are critical partners and will be engaged for the full duration of the program where appropriate. And I want to bring to the attention the important matter of use of force, which will be enabled in this legislation. Use of force are already available to Oranga Tamariki staff working in the youth justice residence. There are safeguards in place for this, which include strict policies and training for staff, along with reporting and escalation processes. In this bill, it is proposed that qualifying community providers would also have use of force powers. This is to ensure that providers and their staff, whether Oranga Tamariki or another agency or provider, will have the power to use force in the form of physical restraints or physical holds no greater than reasonably necessary to prevent a young person from being harmed, harming themselves, or harming another person. It also prevents a young person from absconding from a residential location or while outside the residential location for other activities, or while at another location used as part of an MSA from time to time. The intention of these powers is keeping young people safe, keeping the people working with them safe, and keeping our communities safe. If we're going to devolve back to community and back to iwi, we need to be able to give them the same powers as Oranga Tamariki, so in the future they may be able to run these programs themselves. These powers will have carefully considered safeguards enabled by secondary legislation. They are existing legislative provisions which provide for restricted use of force of powers in order to keep children and young people safe in the community. For example, under the Education and Training Act, which applies to all schools, or authorised staff members in teaching positions at registered schools are able to physically restrain a student where certain conditions are met. This will be the same. This bill is an important step as we get to the root of serious and persistent youth offending, Madam Speaker. It signals a change in direction the government is taking to provide a stronger, faster and tougher responses to young people who continually offend. We want every young person who will be part of this program to take up every opportunity that is offered to them. But ultimately, Madam Speaker, what they do with these opportunities will be in their hands. I wish to acknowledge the work of my colleagues, the Minister of Justice, Honourable Paul Goldsmith, and the Minister of Police, Honourable Mark Mitchell, who have worked closely with me to help me deliver this bill. I commend this bill to the House.
The question is...
Okay.
Well, I don't commend it to the House. I commend it to the rubbish bin.
Well, that is probably where it might belong.
I don't know.
It reminds me of limited volunteer service course you do with a weekend income.
LSV.
Things like that. LSV course.
Well, LSV, the difference between LSV and what this is that LSV is voluntary, right?
Yep, it is. Yeah.
Volunteer to go. This is compulsory. A judge can send you to go to one of these.
Oh, it reminds me of back in the old days, like people with compulsory training. Back in my father's time, he had compulsory training.
Yep.
Yep.
And the older people had compulsory training, so you go there, you got compulsory training.
Yeah, and I do know there was the ballot of being called up for the draft. I do know that happened because I know my uncle was watching it for during the Vietnam War. So I do know that. But I mean, the big question is it? I mean, these courses aren't being run by the military. That's the thing. The military don't want to touch it with a 10-foot barge post.
No, they said it before, they didn't want to touch it, and the government wants them to touch it.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, what's going to happen if they're successful and go, I'd like a career in the military? Sorry, their criminal record is going to sit there and go, sorry.
No, sorry, haven't heard of that.
Yeah,
I mean, there is no evidence that military-style training reduces crime, right? I mean, people look back at the old days like, oh, my father went and did compulsory training. Okay, was your father a criminal? Did your father have a history of mental health illnesses? It's like,
No,
we're talking about, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about kids who are being forced to do this stuff, who
Yeah.
don't need this stuff. They need actual proper treatment. They don't need to be told to do 100 push-ups every morning. It's like having a person shout at them or, run over or underneath obstacles. No,
I mean, and some people sit there and think having a sergeant major screaming at you is a good thing.
yeah,
Or make your own bed.
Yeah. It can be, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Is that what you want? Because, if you subject someone to that, what's going to be a potential future life for them? Are they going to become, perpetrators of domestic violence?
One of the both could go back to them again and say, how do you go on the course and how are you going to improve yourself? Like 20 years' time, what's going to happen with Ian?
Yeah. I mean, I know my grandma did personal interventions on many disruptive children at Porirua College, and every single one she personally intervened, and typically these were males. Her role at Porirua College was mainly female student disciplines as being associate principal, and she intervened in many of these male ones, and all of them have stuck out criminal record free. So, if you want to, give my grandma a ring. She might be actually able to tell you some very good successful devices.
Well,
and
your
if you
grandma's
really
on
want
something.
to, you'll have to get the spiritualists out and channel the dead. You can give my grandfather a ring.
your grandma's onto something because the data has shown that community-run programs tend to be a lot more effective in dealing with these sort of kids.
Yeah.
having people in the community
And
that look up.
the area she was teaching in was Porirua, which was predominantly Māori and Pacific Islander.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.